Welcome to Wine Wednesday. This is Kevin Addix. I'm thrilled to, again, have yet another wonderful person, because all of the people in the industry that we've been talking with are wonderful. They're spectacular. And we've got yet another one. This one from out there, out in Jefferson, out there in Frederick County, Dan from Orchid Cellar. Dan Kennedy, welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going very well. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So you're in the nerve setter of one of our state's premier meaderies. Really, the first all mead, all the time venture in the state. Tell us how it got started.
Yeah, so the owners are first-generation Polish immigrants. They came here in the mid-'90s, and they tried the mead that America had to offer, and they thought that there was definitely room for improvement. So they had generations of mead makers behind them, and so that sort of foundation helped, but it also helps that one of the owners has a PhD in bioorganic chemistry, which definitely comes in handy in a situation when it comes to fermentation. And then they basically started test batching for the better part of a decade. And I think Wine in the Woods in Colombia was our debut, and we sold out in less than 2 hours for the entire year's stock. And then we realized there might be a market for this.
Maybe we're onto something. Yeah, I remember that, and it was wild. And you guys probably didn't bring enough to start with.
Yeah,
but boy, word spread, and I remember people going crazy about that. So.
Absolutely.
So do you remember what the core products were in the beginning?
Oh boy. Yeah. I believe Archer was the first, which is a cinnamon and clove mead. Knight and Monk are up there because we do a lot of old monastery recipes from Poland, Lithuania, and Italy. We still make all of those. And in fact, almost in the exact same way. We've just tweaked the recipes with improvements that we think can make happen, but we're still able to source the same honey, the same ingredients, the same very long aging methods, very long fermentation methods. Yeah.
So from bee to bottle, what's the time span? How long does it take?
Oh.
And I bet it's different per product, but.
Right, yeah. So like take something like Monk, for instance. It's an old Bernardine Monk recipe from Poland. It's a little hard to get the date, but our best estimate is 1,200 to 1,800 years old. It's made with wild rose petals, orris root, obviously honey, and water, and it gets aged for 3 years. So once we get the honey, we will take a portion of the batch and actually cook the honey with the other ingredients. So it'd be like a small, 1/20th of the batch, and it actually gets heated. And the best way I can describe it is imagine making tea at room temperature versus making tea with, hot water. The flavors infuse a lot better. The bad tannins stay away. The good tannins come in. But if you have any mead makers listening, most of them know that heating honey tends to destroy some of the delicacies of it, which is why we only do a very small amount of the batch. So that way we can make sort of a flavor concentrate that goes into the main room temperature batch that's already fermenting once the cooked batch cools. The fermentation will take anywhere from 6 to 9 months. We're going up to about 18%, and we purposely slow the fermentation as much as possible so that we can extract as much flavor. So we will get the yeast started, essentially take away the things that it loves the most so that it struggles to continue. And once it starts to show signs of slowing down, then we give it everything it could possibly want to keep it going until it eventually dies of, alcohol poisoning. So self-infused, self-inflicted. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well intentioned, as it may.
Yes. And then once all of that is done, it gets to a very, very light sort of straining just to make sure that whatever ingredients are not coming into the barrel. But it goes into a barrel for 3 years. Medium toast French oak sits underground. The barrel inhales and exhales that mead over the years, over the seasons, with all different humidities. It filters it a little bit more for us. Gives it some incredible flavors. And what I've noticed is that when you first finish with a mead, you tend to have a bunch of flavor at the beginning, a bunch of flavor at the end, but there's this sort of like gap in the middle where it's not quite cohesive enough. And once you throw it into a barrel for at least 9 months, 12 to 18 is ideal. 36 is fantastic. It gets a lot more cohesive. It tastes just much more aged, almost borderlining on cognac at that point. And then we'll bottle it, give it another 3 to 6 months of bottle conditioning time. And then when it's all said and done, 9 months plus 3 months, year, plus 3 years.
Yeah.
4+ years.
They're going on 4.5, 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone can even taste it.
And are all of them barrel aged?
They are not. Typically, fruit meads will be stainless aged because we want to keep that sort of like fresh fruit flavor. Yeah. And also, if you accidentally get some fruit into the barrel, it's kind of a nightmare to get it out without taking apart the whole barrel. Whereas the spiced meads, like things that have like cinnamon, ginger, vanilla, even though some of those are semi-fruits, the way that we use them, they're essentially spices. Yeah. So those tend to be the oak age because that warmth, that sort of toasted flavor just really brings out the spices. It works fantastically.
You're not navigating anywhere. If you'd like directions, just say, get directions to wherever.
My phone's trying to take us somewhere, so I'm I wonder if that's a sign. So you started with some of the core products like the Monk, the Archer, and then I seem to recall pretty soon there being some heat added.
Yes. Yeah, we had this crazy idea to throw some chili peppers in a batch of mead. One of the owners who's the head boss here fought it fervently. She thought that was terrible, disgusting, and it was, close to 12 years ago. So I'm not sure if it's something that anyone had really ever done before. So it was before all of these beers with chili peppers and that kind of stuff, and Flying Dogs in Heat series. And
I think she needed a talking to, right?
Right.
Peppers, honey, come on.
It sounds a little like, I still get people that when I pitch it to them, they're
a little concerned.
Best. But I will say 9 out of 10 people that try it, it ends up being my favorite. So the idea being that sort of sweet and spicy combination with the honey and the chili peppers, instead of it being a tongue spice, like say a hot sauce would be, it ends up being a throat. And we started with Hunter, and we've worked our way through 6, 7 different ones now. Fish peppers, ghost peppers, Trinidad scorpion peppers, and every Father's Day, we released a small batch of whatever the world's hottest pepper is. I think at the moment it's still Dragon's Breath. Okay. A Welsh pepper used to treat patients that were allergic painkillers. So it's almost twice the heat of ghost pepper. I guess it wakes up and it's really pissed off. But that one is a rare breed. The rest of them are quite reasonable, quite tame, and they're definitely some of our most popular.
I think I left off at Carolina Reaper was my last hottest, so I'm not sure what I've missed in the last couple of years.
Anytime, Kevin.
Yeah. Okay. Well, time to come back. So riddle me this: is mead more wine or more beer?
I think it depends on how you make it. It's there are meads that actually have grain in them. They're called braggots. We call it a mead beer combination, but that is one of the old styles. If you're going for things like higher alcohol and fruit additions, long aging, it tends to be more in like the wine realm. But mead has this really interesting history in that almost every ancient culture made mead, but they discovered them. They discovered the mead independently of themselves. So the coffee world, every culture tweaks it to their taste and their growing style and their climate. More or less, coffee is coffee. It's the range that it operates in is fairly constrained. But with mead, if you have like an Ethiopian tej versus an aged Polish mulberry mead, they don't taste like they're made from the tej is very light while you drink it. It's made with gesha root, sometimes a little bit of hops. 2 to 4% is the average range, and it was typically consumed as a way to ensure that you're getting something clean in terms of drinking. It also helped to keep your they tend to eat with their the mead would help to sterilize whatever was imperfectly clean on the food or hands. It's kind of a way to stay healthy. Yeah.
So that's been a big
emulating.
Yeah.
We make a little bit of both.
Hey Dan, and you're breaking in and out here, and I always wonder if it's me or if it's you.
Let me see if I can fix that real quick.
So while you're doing that, I'll just say that in our industry, there's been a big discussion about whether mead should be promoted more among brewery fans, or mead should be promoted more or to winery fans, wine fans. And my sense is that people who like mead find the mead. It doesn't matter what you call it or how you package it or how you're presenting it, or which group you may be affiliated with, whether it's the wineries or the breweries or et cetera. People who like mead find it and love it. So
we should be a little bit better on the Wi-Fi now.
Okay, great. Well, I'm getting thirsty. Would you mind grabbing a sample of something and let's talk about it?
Absolutely. Something that's been on the side. If everybody can see this. This is a somewhat new thing for us, under a different brand name. So
it's Elemental Mead, right?
Yes. So we sell these guys as 4-packs. They're aluminum bottles, kind of fun, funky little packaging.
Yeah.
And so it has all the benefits of the shape of a bottle, like how pleasant it is to drink out of it, the ability to add higher carbonation levels because the bottle is a lot thicker than a normal can, and just like super simple carrier, minimal packaging, but it has all the benefits of aluminum, lightweight, never breaks, take it to the beach, and it doesn't let any light in too, which is the one thing that can kind of mess with an alcohol rather quickly. So yeah, I'm sorry, I should have sent you some, Kevin.
No, I'm getting used to these Wednesdays of drinking alone here or not drinking at all. So, so tell me what are the stats on that? So 4 bottles, how much is a 4-bottle pack? And we may have lost Dan. So we'll tread water for a minute, see if we get Dan back. I will say that my history or my experience with Orchid Cellar is that, first of all, it's a beautiful place to go and to be. So they're in Jefferson, just south of Frederick, out in the hills, and it's a gorgeous drive to get there. But beyond that, the variety of products is really, really cool. See if you're back with us, Dan.
Sorry about that.
You're back. You're back. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was asking just the stats. 4 bottles. How much are the bottles? What's the alcohol percentage?
They're 6.9%.
6.9%. Okay, so that's great.
Yeah.
So kind of on the low end of our alcohol scale. And then, do you sell them individually, or is it always a 4-pack?
We tend to sell them to go as a 4-pack. If someone really, really wants individual, obviously we'll make that happen. But we tend to just sell cold individuals on site. But I know a lot of the wholesale people that we work with, they are allowing them to be part of their like mixed 4 6-pack programs where you kind of run through the store, you grab 6 different bottles, mix it together, and it's, a set price of, $12 to $15, something like that.
One of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to try new things.
Non-committal.
You're only getting 1 bottle versus 6, which can, if you don't love it, can be a bit of an investment. Yeah.
So what's a 4-pack cost?
4-pack ranges from $15 to $17. So we got the more classic flavors. They tend to be on the lower side, and the more limited flavors that we make seasonally, they tend to be on the slightly higher sides. 17. So like this guy, the current limited is a coconut lime.
Okay.
So this guy is, imagine a margarita and a pina colada smashed together, but all of the sweetness has been fermented out. So it's our first completely dry mead. And one thing we've always had an issue with dry meads is that they taste kind of thin. They don't have quite the body that most people are looking for.
They lose the viscosity.
They lose viscosity, but also like they're just not packed with flavor.
Right.
So we wanted to sort of up the ante there. So the lime really helped to kind of give it a good bit of acidity, but it can be lime can be a little harsh if it goes a little too far. So we literally put in toasted coconut flakes that gives it this kind of like smooth, creamy texture over top. And it has been our best-selling drink all summer long.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So, and is that a standard flavor or is that a special release?
That's limited at the moment. I may have a small angry mob on my hands if we don't make it again immediately. So check back with me in a few months and I'll let you know.
And what's the production time on the Elemental?
Elementals are a good bit quicker.
Okay.
So
it's not a 4-year process.
No, God, no. Typically, we're looking about 2 months from start to finish.
Okay.
Yeah, we still like to do some old school, not super invasive methods. But the cool thing about aluminum and caps is you can kind of freeze the product in time. There's no risk of bottles bursting because there's no glass. The cap seals everything from coming in and out, unlike a cork. And as soon as you open it, it's as fresh as the day we bottled it. So our best estimate is that they keep for about 2 years, but I can honestly see them lasting a good bit longer than that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Okay, so you got the coconut lime. What else do you have in the?
Coming out right after that is this guy. It's our blackberry.
Ooh.
Yeah. We actually already released this once this year. And it was very popular, and it came and went just like that. And our berry supplier, because we always use local berries, they reached out to us and said that their growing season this year was so good that they actually got 2 harvests, which is the first time I've ever heard of that.
Like, bring them over. Come on, bring them.
So a few thousand pounds of berries. I wish they delivered. We got to go pick them up. But we're talking like some of the berries were like the size of strawberries.
Wow.
So after eating 2 or 3 pounds each, then we put the rest into the batch and proceeded to try to scrub all the color off your hands.
Oh, yeah.
It's fantastic. So yeah, this should be another popular one. It's nice and juicy after the fact, after the fermentation, but it retains some of the berry tartness, and the honey just smooths it all out top to finish.
And so roughly what's the sugar on that?
On this guy,
a little off dry.
This batch was I'd probably categorize it as off dry.
Right.
The new batch will be just tiny bit drier, so kind of like riding that line between fully dry and off dry.
All right.
Leaving just like the tiniest amount of residual sugar, obviously from honey, and a little bit from the berries, means that the drink has just a little bit more sort of size and scale to it. But it's still super light, super crushable for warmer weather.
Are you finding that people are drinking the elementals just cold as is, or is this like a food pairing?
Really, you can kind of go either way. Cold and crushable has been the way that most of our reviews have been describing us. Yeah, it's been the type of thing where some people like it right out of the bottle, which I think a little bit nicer than a can, just because there's not so much slurping, not so much air going in. And then for those that are looking for a more, sort of wine experience, throw it into a wine glass. It opens up nicely. It really holds bubbles well. Like you can pour it into a glass, and as long as the glass stays cold, you can come back an hour later and it's still got all the bubbles in it. I don't quite understand the science there, but it tastes good. So
the physics and chemistry of bubbly.
Yeah.
So Amber here giving you a nice prop.
We love Amber.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. She's getting married here soon.
Oh, well, that's even better. Good work, Amber.
Yes.
So you have some other varieties there. So which one are you drinking?
I'm drinking the lemon and vanilla because it's a brand new batch for us. For me, as soon as the weather gets above, say 70 degrees or so, I just crave citrus. And when it comes to drinks that have citrus, I feel like the citrus is always kind of in the backseat. So I really wanted something that, it's about as pleasant punch in the face of citrus as you can possibly get. And usually lemon on its own can be a little rough, but the honey kind of holds it back a little bit. And then the Madagascar vanilla kind of gives a little bit of that kind of like warm, earthy tone to it. And the combination of those two is it's perfect. Yeah. It's from start to finish, this has been our best seller since start to finish, since November. That's when they all came out.
So November is when Elemental launched.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay.
End of November.
Well, that's great. Okay, so we did coconut lime, lemon vanilla, blackberry. You have strawberry?
Yeah, we got strawberry.
So are these? So when you pour these, what's the color? Do they look like mead? Do they look like fruit juice?
No, they'll actually be like a kind of a pale straw yellow. Occasionally, when you get berries, you'll get sort of like the light staining of the berry. We find that if you do a proper full fermentation, the color doesn't hold on super heavy. So like, if you pour the strawberry, it'll look like a glass of white wine that a strawberry sat in for an hour, essentially. So it's just like the essence of the strawberry rather than like the straight juice. But adding dyes or anything like that to sort of up that DNA. And it sounds like your dog is not a fan of it either.
My dog is really the fan of the coconut lime.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll put this one away then. But part of what spurred all this is we're going around to all the local farms around us. We're just surrounded by farmland,
right?
Even though we're just outside of Frederick. And
you're like, what are you growing? What are you growing?
Exactly. And at one point, I saw them. They had like a tub that they were bringing over with a forklift, and the tub they were just taking it over to like some of the livestock section, and they were dumping ugly strawberries. And those are
the best.
I know. I was like, you got to be kidding me! What? No one's going to buy those. So they're like, oh, it's not really worth it. Like the price we can get for them, yada yada. And they said, and managing it is too hard because if it's too ugly, it's different than it being slightly ugly.
Right.
So we started working.
Like, I know a guy.
Yeah. So we buy 2 truckloads of it a year now. And
And are they're all the ugly. They're all the seconds.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I think on our Instagram we actually have a picture of one that kind of looks like Flubber, like a or what are the little ghosts that chase Pac-Man? They kind of look like that. The cool thing about it is we're literally just gonna peel off the top and smash it. So at that point, it's about flavor and aroma. So I have no idea how many pounds go into a batch of this, but it's a lot. It's a lot because I know the mead production crew, they will have stained fingertips for about a week after it's made. And that's how I know, okay, we're about 2 weeks away from the next batch of strawberry.
So that's your barometer, is just
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you could have a meeting, but really the fingertips they don't lie.
You're like, all right, everybody's hands up. Come on, show me.
Right. Every day.
So you mentioned the fruit, you're sourcing all the fruit, but long ago you had to start going out of the region for honey, right?
We did. We still keep it in the Mid-Atlantic.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so the largest apiary in Maryland sells everything that they make to us. But to give you an idea, our best estimate says that we would need about 12,000 hives to supply us. And Maryland doesn't really keep great records about how much honey they produce, but by what we can sort of piece together with who's willing to sell in bulk,
right.
So anyone that's willing to sell above a ton at a time, we buy more than the entire state produces.
Yeah,
there's just a way.
Just not many large producers.
Right, and now that you have what is it? 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 other meaderies in the state, and then a few breweries doing mead-like drinks. There's just not enough around for us. But luckily, Pennsylvania and Virginia are massive honey producing states. We get a little bit from Brazil as well for some specialty things.
Cool.
Yeah. So I would love to see Maryland make some more. But as you know, it's a smaller state with a higher cost of living, which means agricultural land gets smaller and smaller all the time. But luckily, we still have wonderful people growing grapes, growing grains, growing hops. Now we just need to put some bees around those. So.
Yes, circle everyone with bees, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what could go wrong.
Well, and frankly, we need bees. So if you've got land and have some time on your hands, keep some bees.
Oh yeah, I would actually. We've been pitching this over and over to the powers that be, that, for lack of a better term, that. The medians of a lot of roadways should not have grass in them. It's dangerous to put people out there to cut it on a regular basis. It costs money. And frankly, it's a monoculture that doesn't really help anyone.
Right.
So if we were to take that out, put in wildflowers, they constantly reseed themselves. Once a year, if you want to be perfect, you can hack them. Right. But they constantly reseed, and every year they get a little bit better. Yeah, and they're, not to mention, they're beautiful.
Well, I'm on that, and that will make the bees happy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Bees will need helmets crossing the interstate, but that's okay. So Elemental, what is happening back at Orchid? So you've got a couple of mead to talk about.
Absolutely.
And so when someone comes in, right, you've got these two brands in the same tasting room, right? So two different products.
Yep.
How like, do you watch people walking down the path and you're like, oh, that's an Elemental? Or that one over there, that's definitely Orchid.
We definitely have. I think when we walk in, we can kind of,
not that we profile our guests.
That's no, not that. But you do get a sense of like what people are looking for and what they'll connect with.
Right. Okay.
So we're really lucky in that you have the sort of like the terroir of the wine side of things, where the honey's coming from, where the fruit's coming from, where the spices are coming from. Then you also have like the sort of like creative craft beer side of things, where like how we put things together, how we get around roadblocks, the sort of the nerdy science of it, kind of going through everything. Then you also have like the history of it, where the recipe came from. If someone says, they're from this country or that country, generations back, a lot of times I will know little stories about, their ancestral mead. So everyone's looking for something different. And if someone has been to, say, like the Ren Fair as their first mead experience, they're probably looking for a classic mead like this. And if someone is more of like a beer or cider drinker, they're probably looking more so for a refreshing mead like this. But honestly, in our experience, there's a lot of overlap there. If you make something good and honey's the backbone in both things, it doesn't really matter which is which to people. Yeah, it's just a matter of what sort of drink you're looking for in that moment. So summertime, these guys have been huge. Once it gets a little cooler, you're looking for one of those full, like savory fall flavors. That's where something like this comes in. So yeah, and this guy is, this is Duchess. This has been a bestseller for us for a while here. We get a Hawaiian variety of ginger that's grown about 10-15 minutes away in a greenhouse. And it's a whole different type of ginger I've never had before, but every time we buy it, I actually will eat like a pound of ginger on the way home, just right out of the ground. Sometimes still a little bit of dirt on the ginger. But it's just so good. It's called Yellow Kahuna. I don't know who brought it.
Is it similar to what we would buy in a grocery store, or different?
It is a baby ginger variety because Maryland's growing season is a bit more limited than what you'd have in, say, Hawaii. Right. But it's very citrusy. So we talked about my love of the citrus earlier, but once you take that citrus and what we'll do is we'll buy about 80 pounds at a time. We'll split it in half. So half the batch will be juiced and grated, and it'll go fresh into the batch. And that gives you that ginger ale sort of like silkiness. And then the other half will be sliced thin and dried, and then it'll go in a little bit later in the fermentation. And that gives you the ginger beer spiciness. So those combination, those two, gives it like the 1-2 punch of what everybody loves about ginger. Yeah.
I really want to try that one right now.
I wish I could just pass it through to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we get a local artist to make some pretty cool art for us, just something to spice it up. And then you can probably see he also does caricatures of all of us. I'm the really weird one over here.
So that's the staff portraits in the back?
Yes. Yeah, he comes by and he does those in about 45 seconds, which is pretty incredible if you ask me. Yeah, is Mr. Goodlow Byron. He's a good friend of mine, and
yep,
he does some pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, so. Hold that up. I'll put you up there.
Yeah, and then a few people know this that have been coming here for a while, but I am very colorblind. And when it comes to picking colors, because each one of our bottles has a different color, I'm kind of lost. So what we do is we go back and look at old like 1940s to 1970s Vespa colors, and I literally just pick them right off of the website because they have some fantastic colors. Yeah, so that's how we do it.
Hey, whatever it takes, right?
Yeah. So a little European flair for you.
Yeah, that's great. And Goodlow is quite a renowned artist and does really, really cool stuff, working on some other artwork and labels for other folks as well. And glad to have him as part of the industry, based in Frederick.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you.
So Duchess, there's also Cobbler, right?
Yes.
So Cobbler is beautiful.
Yes. So this is a very I mean, this year it's a very pale color. I don't know if you guys can really tell that super much, but it's we use white peaches, sugar made peaches, and then just a hint of yellow. I think this batch was about 7,000 pounds. But basically, the peaches come. There's already a fermentation of honey in the water going, and what we do is we lay all the peaches out. We check them for ripeness, and then only the ripest peaches go in at a time. So that means someone has to go in, they rip the peach in half, they take out the pit, crush it with their hand, because that's the quickest way to go, and then throw it in, skin and all. The skin gives it a kind of silky character that I've never really had in a drink before until I've had this. And Yeah, peaches, water, and honey. It's definitely on the sweeter side. It's probably the sweetest drink that we make, but it's liquid sunshine is what a lot of people call it, liquid silk. It's definitely something that it'll sneak up on you at 18% because it doesn't taste like 18%. But this is always in our top 2 bestseller every single year, and this year it might be the new king. But
what's the number 1 or 2?
It's either this guy or Castellan, which is the Madagascar vanilla mead. Yeah, because it gives it that like kind of whiskey cognac hint to it. Yeah, so it's between those 2 for sure. And then of course we had to go with a little double entendre for that guy, so we got a cobbler. And
That's clever. That's clever.
You can't take yourself too seriously.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
So do you what's it like to come in there? What are you offering now? Are you offering tastings, or is it sales to go only? Are you letting people in the tasting room?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have seating for about 50 inside. Obviously everything's spaced out. And then outside we got about seating for about 125 after our latest expansion. Gorgeous view of the Middletown Valley. The sunflowers are just barely past peak. So this weekend they'll probably be the first weekend where they're looking a little tired. And then after that we'll cut them down. And the wildflowers are starting to make their second run before we typically cut them in October, weather depending. But gorgeous views. The nice thing is we always have a light breeze here, so even if it's a little bit warm, the breeze really helps out a lot. We are planning on starting tastings for the first time since end of February, beginning of March, this weekend. We're going to do sort of like take to your table tastings. And we'll see how it goes. It's been luckily the community support has been there. We really appreciate that. It's been Saturdays at 3 or 4 o'clock. You better be on your game, and got to manage the door, got to manage the parking lot.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing, good problem to have.
Are you finding that people nowadays are coming to Orchid,
Mm-hmm.
or are they on a trail of visits and you're one stop along the way?
You get a little bit of both. I tend to think that at least during COVID, people are looking to sort of like find a spot where they feel good and safe and kind of plant themselves for a bit. We're very lucky in that we got tons of outdoor space. So even if all 125 seats outside are filled, like someone can just pop up chairs or a blanket, down in the wildflower field next to the vineyard.
You've got space.
Yeah, there's just so much space to the point that we'll run out of parking before we run out of space. So I'd say most of the people that are coming are not just coming to, stay for 45 minutes. They're coming to stay for 2 to 3 hours. Yeah.
Great. So what can people expect? Like, what's happening over the next few months? We're all worried about what happens when things start to get cold and maybe coming inside. I mean, what do you expect for Orchid and for the industry?
So I definitely know that like once things get cold, we'll slow down a bit, because 50 seats are 50 seats. You can't really expand that. I'm sure there's going to be some people that brave it outside. But that breeze that we have during the summertime, it doesn't stop in the wintertime. So, we'll have the fire pit going as long as possible. It's the wood stove that we have inside is definitely a draw for people. So it's a wood stove burning inside of a log cabin tasting room. So that cozy, wonderful feeling, most of the time is definitely ideal. During COVID, you want to be cozy but safe. And we're going to look at rearranging tables even more so to try to make sure that everyone has a seat. Obviously, we'll have to limit groups and all that fun stuff, but we're going to continue releasing things. We're going to release them to stores if we have to. And this is supposed to be our, at the end of October is our 10-year anniversary. and we've been planning a big party for a long time, and I'm not sure if it's a responsible choice to continue that planning process quite yet.
It could be a bunch of little parties.
Yeah. We have so many things that I mean, we're talking meads that have been in barrels for 6 years.
Yeah.
Things that we want to, give
Things
to
things that you really want me to try. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the wonderful people at McClintock in Frederick. We about a decade of leftovers. So all of the bottom of the barrel stuff, the stuff that you wouldn't want sitting at the bottom of the barrel or sitting at the bottom of the bottle.
Right.
So, when the peach, fluff kind of sits down at the bottom and you pump off the top 98%, well, that bottom 2%, we would constantly put into a special tank and just keep pitching yeast into it. So that way the sugar content would stay low, the alcohol would stay high, and then McClintock distilled it for us. And it has been in a barrel for 2 years, and then it was cut with a 5-year barrel-aged traditional mead. So we're going to make our own brandy. I'd love to release it this fall. We still got to figure out what we want to do and what way the numbers go, because everything is a little up in the air right now. But we will definitely, at the very least, release it to our club, and then see how much we have left over after that. So it should be fun.
Tell me briefly about your club, and sorry for my set change.
It's all good. That was pretty sick. We basically do a subscription club, so it's no cost to join. You get 4 bottles every quarter, so every 3 months, and you get to choose what they are. I think when I first joined the industry about 5-6 years ago, I opened up a winery management magazine, or it's not called that, but it's something like that.
Yeah.
And the first rule of the
might have been called that. Yeah.
It might have been. Yeah, I don't want to call them out too much. But their first rule was, don't let customers choose what they want. It's too hard to manage. And I just thought, that's silly. And it is hard to manage, but it's definitely worth it. I think when you make a wide range of products, from light, refreshing, sparkling to chili peppers and even dry wines, like, you got to give people the option, because everyone likes something different. Everyone connects with you for a different reason.
Right.
So yeah, 4 times a year we ship, pick up. We usually do like big parties when that happens. Obviously not right now. And now we're also deploying a small fleet of vehicles to deliver right to people's doorsteps in Maryland. And that's a lot of fun. Get to see everybody, from 10, 20 feet away. It's fun to find out that club members are actually neighbors and they didn't even know it. But yeah, club members, they're typically used as our guinea pigs for new meads. Anytime we're part of the way through a batch, we'll give them a taste to ask them which way we should pull the batch before it's finally finished. And then we also have special releases that only club members get. Yeah, so we got a few barrel projects. We did a barrel exchange with Sagamore Spirit out of Baltimore, and we're going to try our hand at fermenting a mead in a barrel. So
you've never done that?
Yeah.
What?
So what's that?
You've never done that. I would have thought that had come up before.
We are, I think when the Baltimore Sun wrote an article about us, they said we are like a laboratory in terms of cleanliness, and fermenting in a barrel is
you lose a little control. Yeah, you lose control.
Yeah. So I've convinced the mead maker to let us do this. So we're gonna ferment cobbler. It's actually already happening, so I don't know why I'm saying we are going to. It's happening. It's fermenting in one of their añejo tequila barrels. Our tart cherry mead is going to be fermented in a high mash rye whiskey barrel. And then Duchess, the ginger root, is going to be fermented in a low mash rye whiskey barrel. So I'm pretty pumped to see what kind of flavors we pull out. It'll definitely be a learning experience, but there's nothing quite like just pulling new flavors out of products that you've had and people love for a long time. So we'll see how that goes. And of course, club gets it first, and then whatever is left goes to everybody else. But yeah, if you're interested in something like that, a club membership makes all the sense in the world.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, listen, we got to start wrapping up. So I wanted to thank you very much for being on and encourage everybody to get out to Orchid Cellar to try not just Orchid Cellar, but Elemental. The products are available out and about, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we distribute Orchid Cellar a little bit in Maryland, DC, and Virginia.
Okay.
But Elemental is distributed far and wide across the 3 states. And I'm sure we're working our way into Pennsylvania eventually. Yeah, so a little quick to make, so a little easier to expand.
But if someone wants one of these limited edition or club releases, they have to come there and they have to join the club.
Yep, they got to do that. Or if there's, depending on how much we have left over, they can order it right from our website. We ship to, I believe, 36 states now.
Okay.
Obviously, Maryland being one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, thank you, and say hi to everybody there.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kevin.
We got a shout out from Ruth Toomey before, and now Chris Sands. Chris Sands is watching. Holy cow!
Look at that guy. He looks like Kevin Smith.
He does look like he looks like a whole bunch. This is that's Chris Sands. I mean,
local celebrity.
That's the real Chris Sands, because I couldn't believe he'd be watching a wine video here. But times are changing.
I mean, he's a podcast guy. I don't know.
Oh, I know, Chris. Yeah. All right. Well, Chris, we got to. I think, Chris, we need to get back on there to your shop. So, Dan, thank you again. Say hi to everybody, and cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin.
And with that, we've wrapped another Wine Wednesday. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. And make sure you get to Orchid Cellar and go to MarylandWine.com, where you can see a whole bunch of information, maps, the hours that our wineries are open, which ones are open by appointment and open for tastings. And it's a whole lot of fun to get out there on the wine trail. So with that, thank you all so much, and cheers.